Hello, Steve White, Trek Y89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I'm kind of mourning Star Trek. I have been worried about it for years, but I finally realised that it is dead. It came with the destruction of the literary expanded universe just a couple of years ago, which I didn't realise had happened because they sort of did it quietly in the background. Um, Unlike the announcement that the Star Wars expanded universe got when it was destroyed, at least we got an ending to ours, but it was done kind of quietly in the background with a couple of novels, which I'd heard about but didn't understand the significance of what they were doing at the time. They didn't really promote it as the end of the original canon Star Trek, and that they had destroyed that now. So I'm just kind of sad. And I need a bit of YouTube therapy to talk about it for a minute and work through it because I'm going to miss Star Trek. I spent my whole life watching Star Trek, loving Star Trek. I loved the universe that it existed in, this future version of our universe where we resolved all our problems and went into space without any of our issues of racism or bigotry or anything. Our government was, you know, finally working, and we were able to go in as an example to others and to learn from advanced races and to teach races that weren't as advanced as us. And it was a beautiful story. It was a beautiful show. I love the TV shows, the movies. I love the novels, the comics, everything. I really reveled in that universe, and it was maintained for us. There were books about the technology and the ships and how the ships worked and how the science worked and the aliens and you could really believe there were encyclopedias and technical manuals, and you could really believe this universe, this fictional universe, existed in the future, and it all worked together, or tried to. People did their best. There are a few things that didn't quite line up because in something that big it is kind of impossible to get everything right, but that doesn't mean you stop and give up and discard it all like some people believe and did. But yeah, just with the JJ films, they created a different Star Trek universe and a timeline within that universe where they made the films. And there was a conflict for a while between the original canon universe, which CB owned, and the new one, and they had to keep separate while trying to cross promote each other. It was just a mess, and fans thought the solution would be when the the merger, basically they brought it all back together, and then when they did that, it actually got worse, and it just became one big mess, and it's over. And I'm just trying to process that. I mean, I Star Trek existed for was it 60 years? No, 55 years. Star Trek existed for 55 years. I think the 56th anniversary was 57th. Either way, decades. My whole life plus decades, generations of fans have loved Star Trek, and now it's dead, it's gone. There's no comic, there's no book, there's no series. All we're left now is this show, which is basically just Star Wars, because Star Wars was the more popular, cooler science fantasy um, show, basically, that the general population got. Star Trek was too intelligent, too highbrow, and too complicated, and too, you know, it took a lot of effort to watch 80 episodes back then, and then, with Next Generation and all that, like hundreds of episodes to understand it, to just really get that universe. Whereas it's very easy to watch 3 films or 6 films and get that. So, yeah, they basically just destroyed Star Trek for the hope of getting the generic science fiction sort of crowd and the sort of general science fantasy sort of crowd, just the general audience basically. They dumbed it down, then they destroyed it, and all we have now is these comics and shows that don't resemble Star Trek at all. There's no Starfleet as we know it. It's all basically the government's evil, the government's against immigration, and all the things that we have problems today have just been now transported into the future. Nothing's been improved, nothing's changed, nothing's better. All the problems we have today are just in the future. We just have better technology, basically, and that's supposed to inspire us and make us want to live in that universe and maintain that universe. And that's what Star Trek fans have done, and I don't see that continuing in the future. There's nothing left to fight for. When we didn't have any new shows, we kept the show alive through books and conventions and that, and I don't see that continuing. I think Star Trek is finally dead. and this is sort of my memorial video to Star Trek. I'm going to miss it. Yes, we can always live in the past of the future, but yeah, unless someone comes in and just throws out the current Star Trek and goes back to making Star Trek again, which they can do, they have to undo everything that's been done, and the people in charge don't want to do that because they've set it up, and they think this is the best, version of Star Trek and the best approach, and it's just what they're selling. It's the product they're selling now. They're committed to it. They don't even acknowledge anything before that or anything other than that. It's just a mess, and it's sad, and I'm going to miss it. And I've sort of been living in denial for a few years, thinking that somehow it was going to be saved. But yeah, it's dead, Jim.